Good morning, everybody. It's Andrew with NQS Performance Outdoors coming to you from the workshop once again. Got a great video coming up for you guys. Today we are going to be making heavy cover jigs. I'll take you through the complete process from start to finish and stick around to the very end of the video because we're going to get down to brass tacks. We're going to figure out if this is a labor of love or if we actually save any money by pouring our own jigs. Stay tuned. Alright, you guys, you can see I am out in the garage for the pouring process of this video. We are going to go over the mold and some safety tips really quick, and then we're going to get started pouring some jigs here, you guys. You can see my lead is just about ready to go. That lead in that pot is right around 600 degrees, possibly slightly more. So safety is of the utmost importance, you guys. Do this in a ventilated area. Try not to breathe in any of these fumes if you can avoid it. Gloves, safety glasses, a respirator is probably not the worst idea. Once I get the initial video shot here, I'm going to glove up, and I'm also actually going to turn on a fan behind me just to keep some more air moving through the garage here. So be really safe with this, you guys. And also lastly, please, if you do this outdoors, make sure you are in an environment where you are going to stay 100% dry. Do not allow any water to be introduced to this equation. Molten lead and water is just a terrible, terrible combination, you guys. So always be safe when you're doing this. That's the number one thing to me, you guys. Enjoy the process, but be safe while you do it. Let's take a quick look at the mold, and then we're going to get started here. So this is a Do-it Molds Brush Jig, small sizes. Model number is BSH3SA. It's a 3-cavity mold, you guys. It pours 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2 ounce jigs. There is also another version of this, which is going to be the larger sizes. So if you order these molds, make sure you order the appropriate one for the sizes you're going to want to make. My number one size in this jig is 3/8. I'm going to pour the majority of my heads in 3/8 today. So without further ado, I'm going to get this mold heated up, and then we are going to begin the pouring process. Alright, you guys, you can see what I've done here is I've just let the residual heat from the lead pot itself warm up my mold for me. We're about ready to pour. Let's go ahead and get this thing set up and see what this jig's actually going to look like. As I mentioned, this is going to be a brush guarded jig, so the first thing we're going to do is drop our hook in. We're going to be pouring mainly 3/8 of an ounce, which is the middle cavity. This is a Mustad Ultra Point black nickel. The mold calls for a 3/0. I like to use a 4/0 hook, so this is a 4/0 Mustad black nickel Ultra Point. We're going to put the base pin in there. That's going to leave us the hole to glue in our brush guard later on. Let's close this thing up and actually pour some lead into it. Alright, here we go. Brush jig number 1, 3/8 of an ounce. Just top that off just like that. Give you guys a quick look here. You can see we've got a nice complete pour. I do not smoke my molds on my bigger jigs. I know some guys will go ahead and smoke their molds on all of them. I find with my small jigs, if I'm pouring like a panfish jig, something like that with a smaller cavity, it really does help to smoke the mold, but on these larger ones, I don't think it's necessary. They release just fine without smoking the mold, so that's certainly up to you, but there's a good look at it. We're going to go ahead and remove that sprue, pull that pin out of there, and then I'll give you a closer look at the actual jig head as well, you guys. We're just going to pull the base pin. Pops right out of there. Get that sprue off. You can see I'm just using a hemostat, nothing big here. You can use a side cutters, whatever you want. And that's all there is to it, you guys. That's a done deal. We'll go ahead and zoom in on this. You can see that the line tie is sort of integrated into the jig head itself on this. It's got a lead keeper versus a wire keeper. There's the base hole that I was telling you. That's where we're going to go ahead and glue our brush guard into later on. So that's the jig itself. See if I can get that to stand. You can kind of see the profile that it's going to have. It's going to kind of stand on that 45-degree angle, so it's going to help tip that trailer. I like to use a craw trailer on here. It's going to kind of force those claws up into the water a little bit, give that craw a nice defensive posture. So it's a really neat jig, you guys. I'm going to sign off for now. I'm going to pour about 50 or 60 of these up real quick, and then we'll paint some of these up, put a skirt on them, glue the brush guard in, and show you the finished product. Alright, you guys, we are back in the basement. I knocked out 50 jigs really quick up there in the garage. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint about 10 of these jigs up really quick. I'm going to do green pumpkin on these. I don't get real fancy with my colors, you guys. I use basically 3 colors in my jigs: peanut butter and jelly, green pumpkin, and black and blue. So You can see here I've got several jig heads preloaded. Try to zoom in on that. You can see I got a Teflon pin in there. That's super important, you guys. What that's going to do is it's going to keep that hole from filling up with the powder paint. We're using ProTech Green Pumpkin today. For a heat source, I'm going to use my alcohol torch. This is something that I usually use for rod building, but for the purposes of this video, it's going to give me a great heat source, and it's also going to be quiet. So there's really nothing to painting these jigs, you guys. I'm sure you've seen these videos a million times, so I'm only going to do one on camera. I'm going to knock out the rest of these 10. I'm going to cure them in the toaster oven about 20 minutes at 350 degrees, and then we'll come back and we'll add a skirt to a couple of these jigs for you as well. So here we go. Nothing real fancy here. Again, like I said, you guys, this is just an alcohol torch. It's a good heat source. Takes a little bit longer maybe than a heat gun. But like I said, for the purposes of this video, it's going to be nice and quiet, so that's a bonus. Just trying to heat this as evenly as I can. The fluid bed is super nice, you guys. You don't have to continuously stir your powder every couple of jigs. It just moves air through there. Makes it really easy to dip your lead into the paint without having to worry about it being compacted or anything like that. You get a nice even coat. This one should be ready. We'll go ahead and give that a dip, knock off the excess, and there you have it. That's all she wrote. We'll pull that Teflon pin out of there and we'll keep painting, get those in the toaster oven, and we'll be back in just a little bit, you guys. Okay, we are back. I went ahead off camera. I mixed up some 5-minute epoxy gel. It's just DevCon. It's $5 at the local hardware store. I mixed it off camera because I don't think that you guys watching me mix epoxy provides any value to the video, so trying to expedite this whole process as quickly as we can. Like I said, it's just a 5-minute epoxy, nothing fancy. We're going to dip the end of the brush guard in it. I'm trying to do this with one hand best I can. Keep my shadow out of the way. And we're just going to go ahead and press that down into the hole. Nothing to it but to do it, you guys. Let that brush guard set up for 5 minutes. I'm going to knock the rest of these out real quick before my epoxy sets up, and I'll come back when I'm done and I'll show you guys how to put the skirt on these jigs. Alright, you guys, got the brush guards all glued in. Epoxy's all set. Those are never coming out of there. Got my tabs laid out. I've got 2 full tabs of green pumpkin here, and then about a half tab of what's called orange perch belly, just to give it a little bit of flash down there. Nothing fancy. Like I said, I stay really basic with my colors, but I'm going to flip this camera around, grab my skirt making tool, and get this thing put together. Guys, so there's my tabs. Here's my skirt making tool. Try and keep this in the view of the camera for you guys the best I can. Hook onto my tabs. Get those up in there about halfway. Got my collars preloaded onto the tool here already. Just kind of roll it down off the edge and onto the skirt. Straighten up that collar just a little bit. I like to keep them nice and clean. You can see I'm about in the middle there. It doesn't have to be exactly precise, but the only thing left to do now is thread that onto the jig. Gonna get past the hook keeper. And then there's one more little lip on the jig there. Like to get that band all the way up over that little lip so that it seats on there nice and flush. Alright, so there's what the jig is going to look like. The only thing we've got left to do, you guys, is just trim the tabs off. Real simple. Couple more here. And I think that is it, you guys. Oh, got one more tab hanging in there. Missed one. Kind of spin that collar around, get that orange situated in there the way you like it. That's all there is to it, you guys. When I go through and I do my jigs, I'll probably trim this just a little bit. I'll come back and I'll cut this brush guard down just a little bit. These are medium. These are from Fishing Skirts Unlimited. It's a medium brush guard. It's not very stiff, but it's a little bit long, so I'll trim a little bit of that length off of there. But this jig is ready to go fishing, you guys. Alright, you guys, here's one last kind of a close-up look at this jig. You can see I've gone ahead and I've trimmed the skirt back. I've trimmed the brush guard back significantly. I like this jig to be nice and compact, you guys. I'm going to put a 3.5-inch craw on the back of this most of the time. I make my own craws down here in the shop as well, so it's just a nice setup for me overall. But let's get right down to the nitty-gritty, you guys. I promised you a complete breakdown on the cost of this jig, so let's get into that real quickly. For comparative purposes, I went ahead and I'm going to use the Strike King Hack Attack Heavy Cover Jig. I feel like that's a pretty quality jig. It's readily available at most tackle shops, and the average price when I kind of look around on that is about $5 a jig. So if I were to buy 50 Hack Attack jigs, it would cost me $250, you guys. So let's break down this jig right from the mold cost right down to the hook, everything. The mold cost me $40, you guys. So if we divide that out by 50 jigs, if you build 50 jigs and never build another one, you're at 80 cents a jig. The hooks are a Mustad Ultra Point Black Nickel. Those are 15 cents a piece. The weed guards, 6 cents a piece. Skirt collars are about a nickel a piece. The tabs for the skirts are 17 cents a piece about. I use 2.5 tabs usually for every jig that I make, so we'll call that 43 cents. We'll round up on that. The skirt tool costs $5. Divide that out by 50. If you only make 50 jigs and you never make another skirt, you're at 10 cents a skirt with the cost of the tool. I did not put any cost for lead in. I don't pay for my lead, you guys. If you do have to buy your lead, let's go ahead and we'll go crazy and we'll add another quarter to this jig, so you're at about $1.75 a jig. I'm paying $1.46 a jig to do it this way, you guys. Times 50, that's $73. So $250 minus 73 is $177 saved. But even more than that, you guys, I enjoy the process of making these jigs. I take a certain amount of pride in catching fish on tackle that I've crafted myself here in the basement, so you can't really put a price on that. Even if it were a break even if these jigs cost me $5 a piece at the end of the day, I enjoy the process. I have a lot of fun with it. I would rather do this than pay $5 for a production jig in a tackle shop. But with the savings that I'm seeing here, $177 on every 50 jigs, I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. Do I sell any of these jigs? That's another question I get a lot of the time. Not really. You know, I give some to my buddies. I'll sell a few here and there, but it's not really why I'm doing it. If I can sell a few and it offsets my costs a little more, that's great. But again, I'm not in it to, you know, become rich or become a millionaire. You can never sell enough jigs to become a millionaire. I just do it because I enjoy it and I'm saving some money in the process. So, that being said, you guys, that's the end of the video for today. Don't forget to become a member of the Performance Posse by subscribing to the channel. If you got some valuable information here, smash that thumbs up button. Leave some comments below. I try to respond to every single comment, you guys. I appreciate all my subscribers, everybody that's watching the videos. Thank you so much. Until next time, everybody, tight lines.